Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we're jumping into something that, honestly, could really change how you think about staying active and healthy as you age.
Absolutely. We're looking at chapter 13 from Peter Attia's book, Outlive. It's called The Gospel of Stability, Relearning How to Move to Prevent Injury.
And our mission today is really to unpack why so many of us, start strong, but then find physical activity just falls off as we get older.
Right. And Attia points to a surprising culprit, injury. It's a much bigger factor than we tend to think.
Exactly. So we're going to dig into some practical stuff, some real eye-openers about this often overlooked side of fitness.
It's fascinating, isn't it, how we just default to blaming getting old for slowing down. But the book really challenges that.
It does. Those stats are pretty stark. A typical 70-year-old doing less than half the activity they did at 40.
And it gets worse after 70. That decline just speeds up dramatically. We all sort of nod along thinking, yeah, aging.
But Attia says, hold on, maybe it's not just aging. Maybe injury is the missing X factor.
That's his core argument. It's not just a gentle decline. People literally can't move well because of past or present injuries and maybe chronic instability leading to them.
And the scale of this is...
Right.
Wow. The CDC numbers you mentioned, over 27% of Americans over 45 with chronic pain.
Yeah, and get this, 10 to 12% have pain that limits their activity most days or every day. That's huge.
Huge. And the cost of back pain alone, was it $635 billion a year? It's a leading cause of disability globally.
It just hammers home how fundamental physical function is to, well, everything. Attia even shares his own story.
Right, that was pretty harrowing. In his 20s, super fit, training hard.
And then this mysterious back injury hits him. 2 surgeries later, months of intense pain. He could barely function. Needed painkillers just to get by.
Couldn't even brush his teeth. His mom had to come care for him. That's serious.
And he contrasts that with, say, his friend's mother, Sophie. For someone older, that kind of limitation is almost expected, which is kind of sad, isn't it?
It really is. Why do we accept that? His story shows injury can sideline anyone at any age. All that fitness doesn't matter if you can't move.
Which brings us perfectly to Attia's first commandment of fitness.
Yes. First, do thyself no harm. So simple, yet
profound. It's a total shift from that no pain, no gain mindset.
And that commandment points directly to the main theme. Stability.
Now, stability. It's a word we hear a lot, usually linked to core strength, like having a six-pack.
Right, just strong abs.
But Attia defines it much more dynamically. It's the subconscious ability to harness force, decelerate force, or stop force. Think about that.
Okay, harness, decelerate, stop. So it's not about being rigid like a statue.
Exactly. It's about efficiency and safety. How well does force move through your body without causing damage? Without it, he says, you're hosed.
Hosed. I like that. It's blunt. And this idea that many acute injuries, like tearing an ACL,
They aren't really sudden, are they? They're often just the tip of the iceberg.
the visible part of some underlying chronic weakness or lack of stability that's been brewing for ages.
Precisely. It's a chronic problem finally hitting a breaking point.
So how do we get a better handle on this dynamic stability concept?
Well, Attia uses this great analogy from auto racing. He compares his own powerful street car, like 460 plus horsepower,
Beastly.
to a little track car with only 165 horsepower.
Okay, big difference in power.
Huge. But guess which one was faster around the track?
Let me guess.
Yeah.
The little track car.
By seconds. Because it had a tighter chassis, stickier race tires, better stability.
So it could actually use its power more effectively, especially in corners.
Exactly. The powerful street car, it was unstable, push it too hard, and it just, spins out like a super muscular person who keeps getting injured.
Right, all show, no go.
Right.
Or rather, go leads to woe.
Yeah. Whereas the track car, less power but stable, it's like that person who maybe doesn't look ripped, but can deadlift heavy, play tennis, run up a mountain.
And not get hurt.
Yeah.
Because their body transmits force efficiently. No energy leaks.
Exactly. Those leaks happen when force escapes through vulnerable spots, knees, shoulders, spine, because the system isn't stable enough to direct it properly.
Okay, bringing this back down to earth.
No.
How does this stability stuff impact everyday life?
It's everything. It's the pitcher throwing heat, the surfer riding a monster wave.
Sure, the elite athletes.
But it's also the 75-year-old playing tennis without blowing out her shoulder. It's the 80-year-old stepping off a curb without falling.
Or the 95-year-old walking his dog safely. It lets us keep doing the things we love, right? 4 decades.
That's the goal. And Attia's own journey is a perfect case study. He thought he knew fitness.
Until his trainer, Beth Lewis, basically told him he couldn't even do a proper squat.
Right. His before photo showed his whole body shifted, right? A compensation for old injuries he wasn't even aware of.
And fixing it wasn't quick. Took him 9 months.
9 months of retraining his body and his brain. It's a neuromuscular thing.
Which leads to this DNS idea, dynamic neuromuscular stabilization. Sounds technical.
It does, but the origin is super simple. It's based on how babies learn to move perfectly innately.
Huh. So babies have it right from the start.
Apparently so. Some Czech neurologists back in the 60s noticed that healthy adults often lose these perfect patterns sitting, injuries, bad habits. They mess us up. DNS tries to restore them.
Like a software upgrade for your movement patterns. I like
And
that.
then the contrast is amazing. Attia talks about his toddler son doing a perfect deep squat ass to grass,
Effortless.
while he himself, after all his training, was in this ridiculous half-canted position. Even his teenage daughter struggled.
So it's not about flexibility, necessarily.
And not primarily. It's the inability to stabilize the torso while moving. That's what DNS aims to fix.
Okay, so if we want to work on this stability, where do we start? Seems overwhelming.
The book makes it really clear. You start with the breath.
Breathing. Seems too basic.
That's what you'd think.
Yeah.
But it's fundamental. It's not just oxygen in, CO2 out. How you breathe affects your movement, your mental state.
Okay, how so?
Proper deep breathing engages the parasympathetic system, rest and digest. Calming, shallow, chest breathing. That can trigger fight or flight.
And that affects movement.
Absolutely. Studies show poor breathing can mess with motor control, increase injury risk. Think of someone holding their breath and yanking on something. Like shoveling snow badly. Ouch.
Okay, I can see that. And Beth, the trainer, she had funny names for breathing styles.
Yeah, her phenotypes. There's Mr. Stay Puffed, hyperinflated chest, arched lower back, that kind of duck butt posture.
Yeah.
Prone to back pain, that was Attia.
Got it. Who else?
The sad guy, kind of compressed, slumped forward, shoulders rolled in like gravity's winning.
I know that look.
And the yogini, super flexible, maybe passively, but lacks control, often fidgety, maybe anxious, prone to joint issues because there's no stability holding things together.
Interesting categories. So what's the practical fix? How do you start training breath?
Super simple exercise, lie on your back, hand on chest, hand on belly. Focus on a quiet inhale, feeling the ribs and belly expand outwards, like three-dimensionally. Then a full exhale through pursed lips, like you're blowing out a candle slowly. And a little pause, a 2-second hold at the end of the exhale, really engages the diaphragm.
And this relates to IAP, intra-abdominal pressure.
Exactly. Think of your torso as a cylinder. Diaphragm on top, pelvic floor on the bottom. When you breathe properly and engage those muscles, you create pressure inside IAP.
Like pressurizing a canister.
Precisely. Attia uses the analogy of a plastic bottle. Cap off, it crushes easily.
Right.
Cap on, sealed, the internal pressure makes it incredibly strong and stable. That's IAP, stabilizing your spine from the inside out.
That makes so much sense. And knowing your breathing type helps tailor workouts too.
Yeah, like a Stay Puffed might need weight held in front to shift their center back. A sad guy might need rotational stuff to open the chest. A yogini needs more controlled, closed chain exercises.
Fascinating. Okay, breath is step 1. What's next on the stability roadmap?
Feet! Your foundation! Literally where movement starts.
Like the tires on that race car.
Exactly. They transmit and absorb force. But modern shoes, especially cushion ones, they've kind of numbed our feet. We've lost strength and awareness down there.
Attia mentioned his own feet rolling out in that squat photo, right? Supinated.
Yep. Which leads to this idea of toe yoga. Sounds a bit funny, but
Crucial.
very. It's about waking up those little muscles in your feet, improving dexterity. Especially the big toe, it's vital for pushing off properly.
So what does toe yoga involve? Lifting toes.
Things like trying to lift just your big toes, keeping the others down, then lifting the little toes, keeping the big ones down, lifting all toes, then lowering them one by one. Harder than it sounds.
I can imagine. It's about regaining that mind-muscle connection.
Totally. And understanding pronation versus supination. Pronation is like flat tires, energy leaks. Supination is like overinflated tires, poor shock absorption.
And you need to be able to move between them smoothly.
Ideally, yes. That's why lifting barefoot or in minimalist shoes can be so helpful. You actually feel the ground.
And that balance test. Stand on one foot, close your eyes.
Simple, but tells you a lot about your stability. And scarily, it correlates with longevity.
Wow. Okay, breath, feet.
Yeah.
What's the next pillar?
The spine, our central support structure, and modern life is just brutal on it.
Sitting, staring at phones, tech neck.
Exactly. We lose awareness of it. Proprioception. We need to feel it moving, segment by segment.
How do you train that?
Attia recommends a super slow version of the cat-cow yoga pose. On hands and knees, moving just one vertebra at a time from tailbone up to neck, feeling the flexion and extension.
So you really isolate the movement.
Yeah, it improves control, helps distribute load better when you do bigger movements like deadlifts.
Makes sense. Next up, shoulders.
Shoulders, complex joints. Huge range of motion, right? Great for throwing spears back in the day.
But maybe not so great for stability.
It's a trade-off. They're inherently less stable than, say, the hip joint, so you need specific work.
Like those scapular cars you mentioned. Controlled articular rotations.
Yes. Using a band or lightweight, learning to consciously move your shoulder blades up, back, down, forward, and then in smooth circles. Reconnecting the brain to those stabilizing muscles.
Okay, got it. And the final piece.
Hands and grip. Our interface with the world.
Not just about crushing things, right?
No, it's about how you transmit force through your hands and wrists effectively. Think about a bicep curl. Try it with your wrist bent versus straight.
I bet straight feels stronger, more connected.
Way more. Because the fingers and wrist position matter for force transfer. We often neglect this, which can lead to elbow or shoulder issues down the line.
So, practical tips. Add carries to workouts. Pay attention to how you grab things.
Exactly. Be mindful. Remember, a deadlift is as much about how your feet connect to the ground and hands connect to the bar as it is about your back and legs.
These foundational things. Attia makes people work on them for months before lifting heavy.
At least 6 months, typically. It requires patience.
Which is the next big theme, isn't it? Patience. Slowing down to go fast.
Absolutely. Attia himself was frustrated at first. Years of lifting heavy. Now Beth is telling him to start light, focus on form.
But his driving coach's mantra came back to him.
In order to go faster, you need to go slower. Just like driving a race car, push too hard, overdrive. You make mistakes, lose time.
Same with lifting. Push too hard without stability.
You get injured. Slowing down, nailing the foundations allows much faster, safer progress long term.
That brings up the role of trainers. Helpful, but don't rely on them too much.
Right. Attia uses the analogy of learning to swim in a wetsuit. It helps initially, gives confidence.
But you don't truly learn to balance and feel the water yourself?
Exactly. You need that self-discovery, that internal proprioception, trainer's guide, but you have to learn it yourself.
And filming workouts helps with that self-discovery.
Hugely valuable. Attia films his key sets daily, watches between sets. It closes the gap between what you think you're doing and what you're actually doing. Instant feedback.
Okay, let's tie this together with that step-up example. It really showcases the principles.
It's a great exercise. Single leg, works the hip hinge, relatively safe, great for focusing on the eccentric, the lowering part.
So walk us through the details. Box height so your thigh is parallel.
Yep. Foot planted firmly, all four corners, weight slightly forward, maybe 60-40 front back.
Then the breath. Big inhale for IAP.
Quiet, full inhale. Then drive down through the foot, leading with glutes and hamstrings. Stand tall, exhale at the top.
And the key is the lowering phase, the eccentric.
Absolutely critical. Shift weight smoothly back towards the heel as you lower. Control it with the hamstring. Aim for like a slow 3-second descent, no plopping down.
That controlled lowering, that stability in action.
Totally. And if you add weight, like dumbbells, they need to hang straight down. If you can't control that slow descent, the weight's too heavy, period.
It's meticulous, but it makes sense. It's about quality, not just quantity.
Which leads us perfectly to the story of Barry. What an inspiration.
Right. 80 years old, retired entrepreneur, traded health for wealth in constant pain.
And instead of just accepting it, he decides his new job is rebuilding his body. Incredible motivation.
Starting from practically zero. Couldn't walk without pain.
Beth started him right back at the basics. Breathing, that segmental cat-cow for spinal awareness, then balance drills, foot stuff, one-leg walking, even dancing.
And progressed from there.
To walking lunges, building core strength with IAP work, then upper body, scapular stability. Eventually, he was doing push-ups better than most young guys.
Amazing. And he didn't stop there. Agility ladders, jumping drills.
Yeah, the agility ladder for balance and quickness, and hopping off yoga blocks into a squat, learning to trust his brakes, basically. Preparing for unexpected stumbles.
So crucial at that age. Which brings us to the Barry getup.
The ability to get up off the floor, unassisted, or maybe using just one arm, Kids do it naturally.
But adults lose it, and losing it is a huge predictor of needing assisted living.
For Barry, mastering that sequence, getting up smoothly, was literally the difference between staying independent and needing a nursing home. It's part of Attia's centenarian decathlon.
Barry's story. It's more than just slowing decline, isn't it?
So much more. It's about getting better, actively improving, rewriting the script of aging. It shows what's possible.
His final quote really hits home. If you're not pushing ahead, you're going backwards. Powerful.
Absolutely. So wrapping up this deep dive, the key takeaway is stability. It's not optional. It's essential for preventing injury and staying vital long term.
And it's built on those pillars.
Right.
Breath, feet, spine, shoulders, hands, all working together.
Requires patience. Slowing down, focusing on quality movement. It pays off. This isn't just about lifting more or running faster.
It's about being able to confidently move through life, doing the things you enjoy for as long as possible.
Exactly.
So here's a final thought for you to chew on. Our bodies adapt constantly. What little things in your daily life, maybe things you don't even notice, might be slowly chipping away at your innate stability?
Ooh, good question. Like how you sit or stand or carry things.
Right. And what tiny shifts could you make starting today to maybe counteract that erosion and build a more stable foundation?
Definitely something to think about.
We really hope this deep dive gave you some valuable food for thought, maybe some new perspectives on movement and longevity.
Stay tuned for our next deep dive. We'll have more insights to explore.
Thanks for joining us.